Carlisle Wilson Joseph, also known as Kaya, of Willis, who resided at Molyneux St. George, died on Monday 15th May 2023 at the age of 81. Left to mourn are his children Yolande Modeste, Patsy Lewis, Vic Nicholas Pope, Wayne and Collins Nicholas, all in Grenada, Dave Lowe, Wendy and Arlene Nicholas, all in the USA. Stepdaughter Joycelyn Ortiz. Stepson Neil Nicholas. 25 grandchildren. 13 great-grands. Sons-in-law Michael Pope, Alfred Modeste and Dexter Lewis. Daughters-in-law Andy and Anne-Marie Nicholas. Sister Carmen Joseph. Caretaker Rashida Paul. Many nieces and nephews including Velda, Urias, Sonia, Victor, Elvis, Brenda, Godson, Tessa in Canada, Leonard, Derek, Dave, Allison, Roselle, Randolph and Stefan in Trinidad, Michelle in the USA, and Philip Monroe. Many other nieces and nephews, too numerous to mention, in Canada, the USA, and Grenada. Other relatives and friends: Nicholas, the Lewis and Harris families of Molyneux, the McIntyre family of the Ravine, the Joseph family in Trinidad, Esme Modeste, the Gooding family of Willis, and the Henry family of St. Paul's, and friends of Molyneux and Willis. The funeral of the late Carlisle Wilson Joseph, also known as Kaya, of Willis, who resided at Molyneux St. George, will take place on Thursday, June 15th at 1:30 p.m. Funeral service will be held at the Cathedral of the Immaculate Conception, Church Street, St. George's, and entombment will be at the St. George's Center Cemetery. Funeral arrangements entrusted to Bailey's Funeral Home. Shirley Maple Jones of Coburtown, St. Paul, St. George, passed away on Sunday, June 4th, 2023, at the age of 85. She was the mother of Gloria Jones Lambert, Selwyn, Jude, Jerome and Carleen Jones, sister of Aunt Frances, Agnes Forrester and Rosalind Modeste, both residing in the USA. Grandmother of 16, including Chanel, Shalona, Randy, Ranisha, Selena, Celine, Kenisha, Keyshawn, Jaden, Janielle and Dwight. Great-grandmother of Jordan, Jaden, Janari, Jamari, Nyla and Azai. Aunt of 12, including Michelle, Hestel, Johan, Alyssa, Rhonda, Kevin, Curry and Junior. Mother-in-law of Russell Lambert, Jacinta, Odessa, Beverly and Sherrianne. Sister-in-law of Randolph Forrester. Caretaker Monica Belfon. Many other cousins, relatives and close friends including the Jones, Edghill, Joseph, Street, St. Bernard, Stewart and Jeremiah families, Vera Rouget and family, Veron, Matthew, Glenna Francis and family, Lana Moore, David Thomas and members of the St. Vincent de Paul Society at the Roxborough Catholic Church, St. Paul's, and friends and neighbours of Coburtown, St. Paul's, Belle Plaine, Pedmotar, Windsor Forest and surrounding areas. The funeral service for the late Shirley Maple Jones of Coburtown, St. Paul, St. George will take place on Thursday, June 15th at 2 p.m. Tributes begin at 1 p.m. Funeral service will be held at the Roxborough Catholic Church, St. Paul's, and interment will be at the Mount Airy Cemetery. Funeral arrangements entrusted to Lacqua Brothers Funeral Home. Matilda Lucina Clouden, also known as Lucina and Santa, of Boglescarrieku, passed away on Sunday, May 14th, 2023, at the age of 92. She was the mother of Georgetta Clouden Joseph, also known as Janet, Anne Clouden Bishop, Joycelyn Clouden Sylvester, Altra Salab, Mark, Livingston, also known as Bamboo, Jamal and Charles Clouden, also known as Charlo, and Ras Earth. Grandmother of 26, including Rosanna, also known as Rosie, Maisel, Felix, Mitchell, Shane, Curtis, Levan and Levi. Great-grandmother of 37. Great-great-grandmother of 5. Sister of Olive Quamina. Aunt of many. Mother-in-law of Robert Salab, Bully Sylvester, Kennedy Bishop, Teresa Clouden, and Janisa John. Close cousin of Faith and Jackie Clouden. Close friend of Agnes Roberts. Other relatives and friends including the Clouden families of Bogles, Union Island, and in Grenada, the Alexander, Quashie and Simon families, the Roberts, Bedeau, Thomas, Sylvester and Rock families, the Bishop, Quamina, Shade, Joseph, Salab, Simmons, Stafford, Prime and Russell families, Irva Bishop, Bob Cato, also known as Trotty, and the Rastafarian faith in Carriacou and Grenada, and neighbours of Bogles, Cherry Hill and surrounding areas, too numerous to mention. The funeral of the late Matilda Lucina Clouden, also known as Lucina and Centre, of Bogles Carriacou, will take place on Friday, June 16th at 12:30 p.m. Funeral service will be held at Christ the King Anglican Church, Hillsborough, Carriacou, and entombment will be at the Bogles Cemetery. Funeral arrangements entrusted to Lacqua Brothers Funeral Home. Jason St. Ambrose Barry, also known as Patch, of Shantimel St. Patrick, a security guard at Wesley College, passed away on Saturday 27th May 2023 at the age of 48. He was the brother of Lorna Ferguson in the UK, Claudette Frame in the USA, Michelle Barry, Norbert and Ashley Frame in the USA, Ashton and Joseph Frame, nephew of Anne Barry and Ricklin Barry Simon, Valen, Ashton, Preston and Hezron. Many nieces and nephews including Priscilla, Derek and Jamel Barry, and Kayleen Ferguson. Cousin of many including Marcia, Otis, Raquel, Jada, Shadimond, Coslin, Rachel, Obadiah and Michelle. Grandnephew of Latina Ferguson and Avis Gilbert. Many other relatives and friends including the Barry family of Shantimel, Rosal and Victoria, the Frame, Ferguson, Cyrus and Martin families of Shantimel, the Cox and Boson families in Carriacou, Rhonda Niles and family, the Barry family of Grand Anse Valley, Malika Ferguson and the PG family, Erica Thomas and friends at Master's Shop, the principal, staff and students of Wesley College, and friends and neighbours of Shantimel and surrounding areas. The funeral of the late Jason St. Ambrose Barry, also known as Patch, of Shantimel St. Patrick, will take place on Friday 16th June at 2 p.m. Funeral service will be held at the Satires Pentecostal Church, and interment will be at the Marley Cemetery. Funeral arrangements entrusted to Lacqua Brothers Funeral Home. Raphael Joseph Mitchell, also known as Apsir, of Café Crochet St. Andrew, passed away on Wednesday 10th May 2023 at the age of 93. He was the beloved husband of Carmen Mary Mitchell née Bub, father of Dessa Fleming née Mitchell, Molly Maddock née Mitchell, Crispin, Hilarius, Ernest, Augustus and Wayne Mitchell, and Eunice Celestine née Mitchell, brother of Christabel, Jocelyn, Anthony Mason and Bernadette. Grandfather of 35 including Kellen Batiste, great-grandfather of 16, many nieces and nephews including June Mitchell, father-in-law of Clarence Fleming, Winston Maddock, Robert Celestine, Brenda Mitchell, Ellen Thomas Mitchell, Cheryl McQuilkin Mitchell, Chelsea Laboussiere, and Natalie Green Mitchell, brother-in-law of Patrick Bubb, Monica Guillaume, and Maudrey Williams née Bubb, godfather of Christina Loha née Mitchell. Many cousins, other relatives and friends including Franklin, also known as Gobilo, Dennis Guillaume, the Honourable Emmeline Pear, Lucille Joseph, the Antoine family of Coles Gap and Pomrose, members of the Crochet RC Church Choir, and friends and family of Munich, Café, Crochet and surrounding areas. The funeral of the late Raphael Joseph Mitchell, also known as Apsir, of Café Crochet St. Andrew, will take place on Friday 16th June at 2 p.m. Funeral service will be held at the St. Martin de Porres Catholic Church, Crochet, and interment will be at the Churchyard Cemetery. Funeral arrangements entrusted to Lacqua Brothers Funeral Home. Gordon John Humphrey, also known as Uncle Peck, of Birchgrove St. Andrew, who resided at Young Street, St. George's, passed away on Monday 5th June 2023 at the age of 75. He was the husband of Senetha, father of Lois, Laurel, Jeremy and Sophia, grandfather of Luke, Jared, Peyton, Keenan, Afia and Amaya, brother of Bernice, Meralda, Joyce and Shirley, Otley, George and David, father-in-law of Micah and Megan, uncle of many including Dr. Diego Humphrey, Anne, Joanna, Christopher, Vanessa, Elvis and Darcy. Many other relatives and friends including the Andrew and Barito families, the Congregation of Jehovah's Witnesses, Grenada, the management and staff of Demerara Mutual Life Assurance Society Limited, and friends and neighbours of Birchgrove and surrounding areas. The funeral service for the late Gordon John Humphrey, also known as Uncle Peck, of Birchgrove St. Andrew, who resided at Young Street, St. George's, will take place on Monday 19th June at 1 p.m. Funeral service will be held at the Grenada Trade Centre Montrouge, St. George, and interment will be at the St. George's Centre Cemetery. Funeral arrangements entrusted to Lacqua Brothers Funeral Home. Julian Donald Augustine, also known as Checker, of Harmony Hall, St. David, died on Saturday 27th May 2023 at the age of 91. Left to mourn are his wife Sarah Augustine, children Leonora, Gemma, Andre and Wayne Augustine, Claudette Etienne and Merle Fleming, all in the USA, Celia Alexander, Doreen Francis and Joan James in Grenada, Danielle in Trinidad, and Alban in Canada. Stepchildren Valerie Phillip in Canada, Derek Phillip, Winston Mitchell, Peter Bartholomew, Jerry McIntosh, Beatrice Andrews, and Derisha Phillip in Grenada. Brothers Randolph, Franklin and Lloyd. Many grand and great-grandchildren. Son-in-law Cecil Francis. Brother and sister-in-law Zilla and Exilla. Nephews and nieces Andre, Dean, Randy, Janice, Sally Ann and Sonia Augustine. Cousin Olga Redhead in Barbados. Other relatives and close friends including David Fleming, Christine Frame, Teacher Gloria and family, Robbie Horsford, Peter Tellersford, Leona Rubin, Andy Andrews, Rita Rubin, Hilda Latouche, Stanley Thomas and family, Celia Thomas of Latente, the Phillip family of Montrose, the Emery family of Riversally, Rosa Mitchell and family, Cyril Horsford of Tempe, Raymond Henry and family of Windsor Forest, Father Gerald Paul, Dr. Devon Francis and nurses at the St. David's Medical Station, as well as staff of the St. David's Pharmacy, members of the St. David's Catholic Church, teacher Mary Jean Jeffrey and family in Canada, Nurse Best and family, Bonston Regis, Reuben and the McQuilkin family. The funeral service for the late Julian Donald Augustine, also known as Checker, of Harmony Hall, St. David, will take place on Tuesday, June 20th at 1 p.m. Funeral service will be held at the Church of the Immaculate Conception, St. David, and interment will be at the St. David Cemetery. Funeral arrangements entrusted to Bailey's Funeral Home. Veronica Cislin Paul, also known as Cisso, of Montfendu St. Patrick, passed away on Friday 19th May 2023 at the age of 85. She was the mother of Louisa Paul, also known as Latina and Tina, Victor and Leno Paul in Canada, Clifton Paul, also known as Pablo, and Cuthbert Paul, also known as Curtie, Black Boy and Justice. Stepmother of Joan Jane Warwood, Helen Alexander, Augustine Thomas, Leroy Warwood, Hester Lewis and Magna Cyrus. Grandmother of 25, great-grandmother of 26, sister of Raymond, also known as Woodley, mother-in-law of Grace, Jean, and Rona, aunt of many including Verna, Yvonne, Martin, Wendy, Lucky, Adrian, Trevor, Selwyn, Maudlin, Eunice, Janice, Gerald, and Arlene. Caregivers Natalie Bailey, Veronica Edwards, and Lynthia Thomas. Close friend of Leela Merger. Many other relatives and close friends, including the pastor and members of the Soteres Evangelical Church, Pastor Gerard Keynes Douglas and family, the Paul family, the Peters and Brown families of Frequente, the Phillip family of Montrich and Montrule, the Thomas and Ford families, the Edward family of Rosehill, the Batiste family of Montfendu and Medeys, the Bernard family of Snellhall, the Nelson and Merger families, Fabian Roberts and family, and friends and neighbors of Montfendu, Rosehill, and in the USA. The funeral of the late Veronica Cislin Paul, also known as Ciso, of Montfermeil St. Patrick, will take place on Thursday, 22nd June at 1 p.m. Funeral service will be held at the Satires Evangelical Church, and interment will be at the Morley Cemetery. Funeral arrangements entrusted to Lacqua Brothers Funeral Home. Debbie Anderson of Birchgrove St. Andrew, who resided at New Hampshire St. George, passed away on Friday 19th May 2023 at the age of 59. She was the mother of Keishelle Anderson, Noella Anderson, Junior Anderson in the USA, Zia Frederick, Jadon and Jaron Anderson, grandmother of Yashawn, Hadassah, Keziah and Kalaya Anderson and Ethan Lewis, stepdaughter of Shirley Lewis in the USA, sister of Anne-Marie Edwards, also known as Michelle Anderson in the USA, Rennie Lewis in the US, Jacqueline Phillip, Richard Lewis, also known as Pilot, Jenilyn Lewis in the USA, Brent Lewis, also known as Bass, Carvel Frederick, Kennelyn DeGale, and Irma Lewis in the USA, mother-in-law of Kizzy Anderson in the USA, many nieces and nephews including Marion Frederick and Kamasha Anderson, many other relatives and friends including Sister Gloria, Emma, Judy, Lynthia, the Reverend Joachim Phillip and family, the Lewis, Batiste, and Edwards families of Willis, the Anderson, Gittins, and Bain families of Birchgrove, the Women's Ministry and members of Wallace Memorial Pentecostal Church, and friends and neighbors of Birchgrove and New Hampshire. The funeral of the late Debbie Anderson of Birchgrove St. Andrew, who resided at New Hampshire St. George, will take place on Thursday, 22nd June at 1:30 p.m. Funeral service will be held at the Wallace Memorial Pentecostal Church, New Hampshire St. George, and interment will be at the New Hampshire Cemetery. Funeral arrangements entrusted to Lacqua Brothers Funeral Home. Anne Bridgman, also known as Auntie Anne of Byland St. Andrew, passed away on Thursday, 25th May 2023, at the age of 97, left to mourn her children Louise, Lucy, Elsa and Dora Bridgman, all residing in Canada, Gail Bridgman in the USA, and Bernie Dubiset, Vicky Robertson and Eric Bridgman in Grenada, brother Ferdinand Thomas in Trinidad, 9 grandchildren Kira, Kaylee and Siobhan Bridgman, Narlin Roberts, Nixon Robertson in Grenada, Kaydell, Kerry and Jasmine in Canada, and Erilyn Robertson in the US, 5 great-grands, nieces and nephews including Sherma Stewart and Leonard Romaine and many others, daughter-in-law Esther Bridgman, sister-in-law Margaret DeBellet in Grenada, 5 sons-in-law Clarence Dubiset and Errol Robertson in Grenada, Anthony Mitchell and Jean-Louis Seguer in Canada, caregivers Geraldine Phillip, Rhonda Francis, Suzanne Williams and Sally Ann Andrew, other relatives and friends including Kanasha Bridgman, Delma Thomas, Parliamentary Representative, Dr. Andy Bernard, Ronald and Levon Bridgman, Nurse Elwise Charles, the Bridgman, Thomas and McIntyre families of Bylands and Paraclete, the parishioners of Bylands RC and St. Michael's RC, and friends and neighbors of Bylands and surrounding areas. The funeral of the late Anne Bridgman of Byland St. Andrew will take place on Thursday, 22nd June at 1 p.m. Funeral service will be held at the St. Andrew the Apostle RC Church, Grenville, and entombment will be at the Grand Bras Cemetery. Funeral arrangements entrusted to Bailey's Funeral Home. Gertrude Thompson, also known as Alona George, of Chantimel St. Patrick, who resided at Fontenoy St. George, passed away on Wednesday, 14th June 2023, at the age of 75. The funeral arrangements for the late Gertrude Thompson, also known as Alona George, of Chantimel St. Patrick, who resided at Fontenoy St. George, will be given in a subsequent broadcast. Funeral arrangements entrusted to Lacqua Brothers Funeral Home. Joseph Lewis, also known as Choiceman, of Florida St. John, who resided at Coast Guard St. Mark, passed away on Saturday, 10th June 2023, at the age of 83. The funeral arrangements for the late Joseph Lewis, also known as Choiceman, of Florida St. John, who resided at Coast Guard St. Mark, will be given in a subsequent broadcast. Funeral arrangements entrusted to Lacqua Brothers Funeral Home. Paul Philip of Glebe Street, Satires, who resided at La Fortune St. Patrick, passed away on Tuesday, 6th June 2023, at the age of 68. The funeral arrangements for the late Paul Philip of Glebe Street, Satires, who resided at La Fortune St. Patrick, will be given in a subsequent broadcast. Funeral arrangements entrusted to Lacqua Brothers Funeral Home. Nicola Carrot George of Rosehill St. Patrick passed away on Thursday, 8th June 2023, at the age of 39. The funeral arrangements for the late Nicola Carrot George of Rosehill St. Patrick will be given in a subsequent broadcast. Funeral arrangements entrusted to Lacqua Brothers Funeral Home. Claudia Selma Roberts of Paraclete, who resided at Wells Road, Grenville, St. Andrew, passed away on Tuesday, 6th June 2023, at the age of 58. The funeral arrangements for the late Claudia Selma Roberts of Paraclete, who resided at Wells Road, Grenville, St. Andrew, will be given in a subsequent broadcast. Funeral arrangements entrusted to Lacqua Brothers Funeral Home. Pat H. Bruno, also known as Toma, of Mardi Gras St. George, who resided in the USA, passed away on Monday, 5th June 2023 in the USA, at the age of 60. The funeral arrangements for the late Pat H. Bruno, also known as Toma, of Mardi Gras St. George, who resided in the USA, will be given in a subsequent broadcast. Funeral arrangements entrusted to Lacqua Brothers Funeral Home. Cathy St. John Worm of Grand Aunt St. George, who resided in New York, USA, passed away on Thursday, 17th February 2022 in New York, at the age of 50. A funeral service was held on Saturday, 26th February 2022 in Brooklyn, New York. The funeral arrangements for the service to be held in Grenada will be given in a subsequent broadcast. Funeral arrangements entrusted to Bailey's Funeral Home. Cynthia Joyce Magdalene Elias of Wharf Estate, St. John, passed away on Thursday, June 1st, 2023, at the age of 74. The funeral arrangements for the late Cynthia Joyce Magdalene Elias of Wharf Estate, St. John, will be given in a subsequent broadcast. Funeral arrangements entrusted to Lacqua Brothers Funeral Home. Leisha Stanislaus, also known as Leish, of Wharf Estate, St. John, a student of the St. John's Christian Secondary School, passed away on Wednesday, 31st May 2023, at the age of 17. The funeral arrangements for the late Leisha Stanislaus, also known as Leish, of Wharf Estate, St. John, will be given in a subsequent broadcast. Funeral arrangements entrusted to Lacqua Brothers Funeral Home. Augustus David King, also known as Zab, Beggs, and Augustus, of Bylands, who resided at Subi St. Andrew, passed away on Saturday, 3rd June 2023, at the age of 70. The funeral arrangements for the late Augustus David King, also known as Zab, Beggs, and Augustus, of Bylands, who resided at Subi St. Andrew, will be given in a subsequent broadcast. Funeral arrangements entrusted to Lacqua Brothers Funeral Home. Irene St. Hilaire, also known as Mother, of Dudmar St. David, passed away on Friday, 26th May 2023, at the age of 95. The funeral arrangements for the late Irene St. Hilaire, also known as Mother, of Dudmar St. David, will be given in a subsequent broadcast. Funeral arrangements entrusted to Lacqua Brothers Funeral Home. Stephen Barry Cox of Redgate St. David died on Tuesday, May 30th, 2023, at the age of 61. The funeral arrangements for the late Stephen Barry Cox of Redgate St. David will be given in a subsequent broadcast. Funeral arrangements entrusted to Bailey's Funeral Home. Kim McSween, also known as Kim Cooper, of Grand Aunts, who resided at Willis St. George, passed away on Monday, 29th May 2023, at the age of 49. The funeral arrangements for the late Kim McSween, also known as Kim Cooper, of Grandance, who resided at Willis St. George, will be given in a subsequent broadcast. Funeral arrangements entrusted to Lacqua Brothers Funeral Home. Monica Mary Williams of Tempe St. George, an employee of Nawassa, passed away on Saturday, May 30th, 2023 in Trinidad, at the age of 54. The funeral arrangements for the late Monica Mary Williams of Tempe St. George will be given in a subsequent broadcast. Funeral arrangements entrusted to Lacqua Brothers Funeral Home. Moses Gurry James, also known as Rose O and Papa Mose, of Chantilly St. Andrew, who resided at Duquesne St. Mark, passed away on Tuesday, May 30th, 2023, at the age of 90. The funeral arrangements for the late Moses Gurry James, also known as Rose O and Papa Mose, of Chantilly St. Andrew, who resided at Duquesne St. Mark, will be given in a subsequent broadcast. Funeral arrangements entrusted to Lacqua Brothers Funeral Home. Rosanna Mitchell, also known as Tanti and Miss Rose, of Granton, New Hampshire St. George, passed away on Friday 26th May 2023 at the age of 79. The funeral arrangements for the late Rosanna Mitchell, also known as Tanti and Miss Rose, of Granton, New Hampshire St. George, will be given in a subsequent broadcast. Funeral arrangements entrusted to Lacqua Brothers Funeral Home. Debbie Anderson of Birch Grove St. Andrew, who resided at New Hampshire St. George, passed away on Friday 19th May 2023 at the age of 59. She was the mother of Keishelle Anderson, Noella Anderson, Junior Anderson in the USA, Zia Frederick, Jadon and Jaron Anderson, grandmother of Yashawn, Hadasha, Keziah and Kalaya Anderson, and Ethan. Imelda Lena Batiste, also known as Mama, of Chantymel St. Patrick, who resided in London, England, died on Monday, May 1st, 2023 in London, at the age of 67. The funeral arrangements for the late Imelda Lena Batiste, also known as Mama, of Chantymel St. Patrick, who resided in London, England, will be given in a subsequent broadcast. Funeral arrangements entrusted to Bailey's Funeral Home. Pastor Dr. Adrian Leroy Marast, also known as Bill, of Hope City St. Andrew, passed away on Friday, May 5th, 2023, at the age of 75. The funeral arrangements for the late Pastor Dr. Adrian Leroy Marast, also known as Bill, of Hope City St. Andrew, will be given in a subsequent broadcast. Funeral arrangements entrusted to Lacqua Brothers Funeral Home. A memorial service will be held for Agatha Peggy Roberts, also known as Sister, and Kent Copeland Andrew, also known as Twin, who both resided at Grand Roy St. John. Sister Peggy, once a market vendor, died on 6 November 2020 at the age of 91 and was buried on the 23rd of November 2020. And twin Kent Copeland Andrew died on November 29th, 2020 at the age of 54 and was buried on December 22nd, 2020. Sister Peggy's immediate surviving relatives include 4 sons, Joseph Roberts, Jude Roberts, and Paul Roberts in Grenada, and Donald Roberts in the USA. Kent's surviving relatives include his mother, Teresa Joyce Copeland Andrew, Sister Magdalene Gale Copeland Andrew in the USA, and twin Kenneth Copeland Andrew in Grenada. All relatives, friends, and well-wishers are graciously invited to join the bereaved Roberts and Andrew families in an occasion of social reflection and closure on the lives and times of their deceased loved ones. The Roberts and Andrew families once again thank everyone who supported them during their losses and also wish to share sympathies with all families who had and may still have distressing and dreadful experiences from the sting of death, life's inevitability. As the good book in Romans 12:15 advises, rejoice with them that do rejoice, and weep with them that weep. The memorial service for the late Agatha Peggy Roberts and Kent Copeland Andrew will take place on Sunday, 18th June at 1:30 p.m. Service will be held at the St. George's Seventh-day Adventist Church, Archibald Avenue. Arrangements entrusted to Bailey's Funeral Home.
The management and staff of MTV extend deepest condolences to those of you whose loved ones have passed on. Thank you for watching.
When death has come and taken a loved one, it leaves the home so empty and bare. But cheer up, my brothers, live in the sunshine. Why? There's a recording of scripture in John's Gospel, chapter 11. Jesus was about to do the final messianic miracle. Raise someone that was dead 4 days, someone that was dead more than 3 days from the dead. And as he was approaching the tomb, he told Mary, he says, if you would believe that I am the resurrection and the life, though he were dead, yet he would live. And if you believe and you're alive, you will never die. To understand that gives us a greater hope than having a large bank account. To understand that if you are in Christ and you've asked for forgiveness of your sins and you've asked Jesus to make you one of His, you will live eternally, and when that time comes, you will leave this body and you'll be absent from the body and present with the Lord. That hope takes the fear of death away and the pain of grief. Friends, death is real, but you don't have to die. You can trust the Lord Jesus Christ, and He'll take care of you. He'll receive you into His kingdom. And there you'll be eternally with Him. Or you could choose not to and be eternally separated into a place of darkness and death. It's called the second death. So as you listen today, may you consider wisely, and God bless you. In Jesus' name, amen.